Guys, today we're going to read number 25, Stage Fright on a Summer Night by Mary Pop Osborne. And yesterday we read chapter 1 to chapter 5, so we're going to read chapter 6 to chapter 10. Let's begin. Chapter 6, On Stage. Will led Jack and Annie through a door into the back of the Globe Theatre. Then he led them up a dark stairway. As they headed upstairs, Jack heard laughter coming from the audience. His leg felt like jelly. "This way," said Will. He led Jack and Annie into a crowded, dimly lit room. Actors are rushing about everywhere. Each seems to be in his own world. One was pulling on a cape. Another was tying a rope around his waist. A third one was whispering words to himself. "I'll find you a costume," said Will. As Will dug through the large basket of clothes, Jack and Annie looked around the costume room. It was crammed with fancy gowns, purple and blue capes, gold and silver wigs, stacks of hats and masks. "Cool," whispered Annie. She touched the donkey mask and lion mask. "These would be good disguises, huh?" Jack was amazed. She was acting so calm. Didn't she know they were about to stand in front of 3,000 people? They thought made him break into a sweat. His stomach felt fluttery. "Yeah," said Will. He handed them green tunics, hats, and slippers. "Put this on. No time to dally. Your pair comes up soon." Jack and Annie slipped behind the curtain and changed into their costumes. As they put on their hats, Annie hid her pigtails. When they came out, Will handed them each a small scroll. "Here are your roles," he said. "They have only your lines on Tim, no one else's." Jack unrolled his scroll. He had 2 long speeches to read. "Wait a second," he said. "I thought I just had a few lines. I didn't know I had a ton." "Don't worry," said Will. "Just remember, speak very clearly and with feeling, and above all, act Natural? Jack thought Jack. How do you act natural when you're about to have a heart attack? Just then, a short, chubby man burst into the costume room. He had curly hair and bright red cheeks. He was dressed all in green too. "For goodness sake, Will!" he said in a frantic whisper. "What will we do?" "Don't worry, look who I found. They both can't read," said Will. He pushed Jack and Annie forward. Jack and Annie meet Puck, merry wanderer of the night. "He'll take you to the stage. Good luck." Annie smiled. Jack roared. "Come on, guys," said Puck. "Follow me." Puck led Jack and Annie out of the costume room into the hallway. Then he guided them to a dark area in the back of the stage. Actors stood silently nearby, waiting to go on. One wore a beautiful white gown, other a tattered brown rags. Through the arch, Jack saw the roof of the stage. It was blue with stars and a moon. A huge crowd stood directly in front of the stage. More people watched from the galleries above. Every single person in England is out there, Jack thought with horror. How did I let Annie talk me into this? I talk on stage first, Puck whispered to Jack. When I say, "How now, Spirit, whither wonder you?" Start reading your lines. Understand? Jack barely nodded. His mouth felt dry. He tried to swallow, but he couldn't. Punk turned to Annie. You go on stage with the Fairy Queen, he whispered. He pointed to the actor dressed in the beautiful white gown. When she tells you to sing her to sleep, use your song. What's the tune? Asked Annie. Just make it up. Now, if they yell rude thing, do not stop. Just if who yell rude things, Jack broke in. The groundling get a bit wild, said Punk. Groundlings? Said Jack. The rowdy folk who don't have seats, said Punk. They're a stage close to the stage. If they throw rotten fruit, don't stop either. Just keep going. That does it, Jack. He couldn't go on stage, not with Grantling throwing things, not with 3,000 people watching, not with a million lines to read, and not when he was about to throw up. While Puck and Annie watched the show, Jack slipped away. He looked for the exit. Just as he found the stairs, he bumped into Will. "Where are you going?" Will whispered. "I can't stay," said Jack. "I'm sick." Will sucked his breath. Then he put his hand on Jack's shoulder and spoke calmly. "Close your eyes for a moment, Jack," he said. Jack closed his eyes. He could hear his heart pounding in his ears. "There's nothing to fear," Will whispered. "Imagine you're a fairy. You're in the forest on a summer night. See the silver moon overhead? Hear the owls? Hoo, hoo." Will's deep whisper seemed to cast a spell over Jack. He felt calmer. He could picture the silver moon. He could bear the hooting of the owls. "Are you in the forest on a summer night?" asked Will. Jack nodded. "If you believe that, the audience will believe it too," whispered Will. "We're on," whispered Punk. The chubby actor ran to Jack. He grabbed his hand and pulled him along. Before he knew it, Jack was on stage. Chapter 7. In the forest in the night. Jack stood on stage in the bright sunlight. He felt 3,000 pair of eyes looking at him. "How now, Spirit?" Puck said in a loud voice. "Whither wonder you?" Jack looked down the scroll. He pushed his glasses into place. He opened his mouth. No sound came out. One of Gundling hissed. "How now, Spirit?" Punk shouted even louder this time. "Whither wonder you?" Jack closed his eyes. He felt the summer night. He took a deep breath. He cleared his throat. He looked at his speech. Then he began to read. Over hill, over dale, through bush, through bear, over park, over pale, through food, through fire. I do wander everywhere, swifter than the moon's spear, and I serve the Fairy Queen. As Jack read, the audience grew quiet. Jack forgot he was Jack. He was in the forest in the night talking to Pop. When he finished, not a single growling. He stood through things. Jack took a deep breath as Puck studied his lines. Jack knew he had one more speech. His heart pounded, but it was more from excitement now than fear. When it was time to start his second speech, he was ready. This time he spoke very clearly and with feeling. He tried to be natural as possible. When he finished his speech, the audience clapped and clapped. Jack hurriedly remembered leaving the stage. Will was waiting for him. "Hurrah!" said Will, slapping Jack on the back. "You are brilliant!" Jack blushed as he gave Will his scroll back. He couldn't believe he just acted in the front of all those people, and he'd actually had fun, just like Annie had said. Jack waited in the shadow for Annie to do her part. He watched her go on stage with the Fairy King and other fairies. When the Queen asked the fairy to sing her to sleep, Annie stepped forward, reading from her scroll. He sang out clearly and with a lot of feelings. "You spotted sex with double tongue, Tommy hedgehogs, be not seen." Annie waved her hand as if shooing away the snakes and hedgehogs. "Near and blind ones do no wrong. Came not near a fairy queen." Annie shook her finger at the newt and blind worms. The audience howled with laughter. Annie kept singing. She made funny movements and silly faces to go with the words. She even added a little dance to her song. By the time she finished, the audience clapped and cheered and stamped their feet. "Wonderful job, Andy," Will said when Annie left the stage. "You were brilliant," Jack told her. "Thanks," said Annie. She gave a scroll back to Will. "Do I go on again?" "Not until the end, when we all bow," said Will. Just then Jack heard the audience laughing again. He really wanted to see the play. So he found a shadowy spot on the back of the theater and watched from there. Jack couldn't understand anything people said, but he could understand the story. It was about people in love, but none were able to marry the people they loved. The funniest part was about the Fairy King and Fairy Queen. The king was mad at the queen, so he put a magic juice on her eyelid to make her fall in love with the first person she saw. Punk worked for the queen, worked for the king. He wanted to make the king's trick even funnier, so he put the head of a donkey on a funny man. When the queen woke up, she saw the donkey man. The magic made her fall madly in love with him. The Fairy King finally broke the spell. Puck turned the donkey man back into a human while he slept. When the man woke up, he looked about the window. I have had the most rare vision," he said. "I have had a dream." Jack whispered the word to himself. "I have had a most rare vision. I have had a dream." Beside him, a group of actors gathered for the last scene of the play. "My lion mask is missing," one of them wailed. "I cannot be a lion with my mask." "Hush, hush! Of course you can," said Will. "Just roar and roar again." Will pushed the actor on stage. He wiped his eyebrow. Then he caught sight of Jack. "Get Andy," he said. "It's almost time for our bow." "Annie? Where is Annie?" Jack wondered. He hadn't seen her in a while. He peeked into the costume room. She wasn't there. Jack started to pound. He had a scary thought. "Oh no," he whispered. Jack ran down the stairs. He put the door. He was happy to see Annie running out from some trees behind the theater. "It's time to bow," he said, grabbing her hand. "Where have you been? What did you do?" "I'll show you later," said Annie. Jack and Annie trudged upstairs together. They found Will and some of the actors waiting. Punk was finishing his last speech on stage. "So good night unto you all. Give me your hand if we be friends." "Andy, Jack," said Will. He grabbed Jack and Annie and Jack. Punk ended his speech. The audience gave a big hand. They clapped and whistled and shouted. Jack and Annie ran on stage with Will and the other actors. While the crowd cheered, they were all but once, twice, and once again. Chapter 8. The Most Important Person. Will stepped forward and held up his hand. Slowly the crowd quieted down. "Thank you all," he said, "and thank you to the most important person in all the world. She was graced us with her presence today." Will made a sweeping bow to a woman in the gallery of the stage. The woman wore a white dress with pearls. A veil covered her face. The woman stood up and slowly lifted the veil. She had pale, wrinkled skin and small dark eyes. She wore a red wig. The audience members let out a gasp. They fell to their knees. "Long live Queen Elizabeth," said Will. "Long live Queen Elizabeth," the crowd shouted. "Long live Queen Elizabeth," shouted Jack and Annie. The Queen smiled. Her teeth were all black. The audience didn't seem to mind. They cheered even louder. The Queen raised one hand and the crowd instantly hushed. "Oh, I thank you, my good people," she said, "and I thank all these good players. Everyone. Today, they gave us a special kind of magic, the magic of the theater. They turned their daytime into night." "Oh man," whispered Jack, "that was it. The special magic." The search was over. The audience cheered again. When the actor left the stage, they gathered around Will to congratulate him on his success. Annie pulled Jack aside. "We found it," she said. "The magic." "I know," Jack said. "Will helped us. Let's thank him later," said Annie. "First I have to show you something. I need your help. Quick." Annie led Jack downstairs and outside. As the people streamed away from the globe, the late afternoon sun was going down. "This way," said Annie. She headed for the patch of trees behind the theater. Then she and Jack stepped into the gloomy shade. Jack saw an old figure near a tree. A purple cape barely covered his furry back. A golden wig and a lion mask barely hid his furry head. Jack gasped. "The bear! You stole him!" "I had to," said Annie. "I wanted to cut when no one was looking. I put a costume on him, so if he passed people on the way here, they'd think he was an actor." "But you can't just steal him," said Jack. "I wasn't stealing. I was saving," said Annie. I am not sure what to do with him now. What do you think? Just then the bear's owner charged into the woods. Where's my bear? He shouted. His face was red. He was growling. Thieves! He yelled. Give him back! I'm selling him to the fight! No, said Annie, standing between the bear and man. He's tame bear, not a fighter. She's right, said Jack, jumping in. And besides, bear fighting is stupid, really stupid. Tis indeed, said a deep voice. Jack, Annie, and the bear owner reeled around. Will and Pug were standing at the edge of the woods. Chapter 9. Sweet Swallow. Tut tut, you're a sorry sight, man, Will said to the bear's owner, trying to sell an old tame bear to the fights. Well, I've been planning to write a play with a Pug for a bear, so take this money for him and be gone. Will handed some gold coins to Bear's owner. The man's eye grew wide. He laughed. You can't have him, the man said, and he took off. Thank you. And good riddance, called Will. Then he turned to Puck. Take our new player to the stables. Tell the actor they needn't be afraid of him. He's tamer than most of them. Come this way, Puck said. He put his arm around Bear and gently led him out from the trees. You love the stage, old man. Bye, Punk. Bye, Dan, said Annie. Punk smiled and waved. The bear stayed for a moment at Jack and Annie. He had a grateful look in his eyes. Then he lumbered off with Puck. Thanks, Will, for helping Dan, said Annie. And for saving us. Thanks you too for helping me, said Will. You saved the day. The night, you mean, said Jack. Oh, indeed, night, said Will. Oh, here is your bag. You forgot it. He gave Jack his leather bag. Then he held up their 2 scrolls with their line on them. And you can take this, said Will. He handed them to Jack. And Jack put them in his bag. Where are you going? Where are you where are you off to now? Said Will. The other side of the London Bridge, said Annie. I can take you there in my boat, said Will. Follow me. Will led them along the steep path towards the river. The lost ray of the sun slanted through the trees. Soon they came to a small rowboat docked from the dock. Then he began rowing across the river. The water reflected the purple and pink in the sky. Only a few white swans now glided over the shimmering ripples. The river smelled as bad as before, but Jack didn't mind now. He had grown used to it. Jack pulled out his notebook and pencil. What are you doing? Will asked. I want to write some of my memories in my notebook, said Jack. And I wrote you both in my book of memories, said Will. Jack smiled. I have a question, Will, said Annie. Why does Queen Elizabeth have black teeth? Too much sugar, said Will. I hope it doesn't make her feel better looking that way, said Annie. Oh no, she does not list it, said Will. The Queen has no idea how she looks. She hasn't picked a good mirror for 20 years. Is that true? Said Annie. Yes, said Will. The Queen pretends to be young and beautiful, just as you pretend to be a boy, and the bear pretends to be an actor. You see, all the words are staged. Jack liked the idea he wrote in the book. All the words are staged. Jack looked up at London Bridge as they passed by. The shop on the bridge was closed now. The theatre crowd was thinning out. The scary blackbird were no longer on their rooftop. They had swooped down and were picking out the garbage left on the cobblestones. The show was over. By the time they came to the riverbank, night was falling. It was much cooler. Will tied up his rowboat and climbed ashore with Jack and Annie. "Thanks a lot," Jack said to Will. "We can go the rest of the way by ourselves." Where do you live?" said Will. "In Frog Creek," said Annie. "What path do you take?" asked Will. "You'll never believe this," said Annie. "We climb up the rope ladder to a tree house in the tree over there, and we open a book. Then we make a wish," said Jack, "and we go to the place in the book." Jack smiled. "Life's a miracle, isn't it?" he said. "Yes," said Annie. Jack nodded. He liked the way Will looked at things. "I have an idea," said Will. "Why don't you stay here instead? You can leave the act at the Globe Theatre." "I'll ask the Queen to include you from the law about girls going on stage, Annie, because of your great talent. And I will teach you both to write plays." "Really?" said Jack and Annie together. Jack couldn't imagine anything more fun. Then he thought the parent back in Frog Creek. "But our mom and dad," he said. "We will really miss them," said Annie. Will smiled. "I understand," he said, "and I would miss you if I were them." He put his hand over his head. "So good night, good night. Parting is such sweet sorrow." "Yes, 'tis," said Annie, nodding. "Farewell," said Will. He waved. Jack and Annie waved back. Then Will turned on his heels and headed back to his rowboat. Jack and Annie walked to the rope ladder and climbed up to the tree house. Then they got inside. They looked out the window. Will was rowing boat backward Thames River. A single white swan glided across the ripples, and beside the boat a silver moon was rising in the sky. At that moment, Jack did feel sweet sorrow. He wanted to stay in merry old England just a little longer. "Wait, Will!" he shouted, but Annie picked up the Pennsylvania book. "I wish we could go there," she said. The wind started. "I wish we could go home," she said. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 10. Our Will? Jack opened his eyes. They were wearing their own clothes again. A lightning bug blinked inside the growing darkness of the treehouse. Annie picked up Morgan's note. She repeated the rhyme. "To find the special magic, you must step into light, and without one spell or charm, turn daytime into night." "We found the special magic," said Annie. "Theatre magic." "Yes." "Yep," said Jack. He opened his backpack. He and Annie took out the 2 scrolls Will had given them. When they unrolled them, Jack saw Will had written something. He read aloud. "Thank you both for helping me. Your friend, William Shakespeare." "William Shakespeare," said Annie. "I've heard that name before." "Me too," said Jack. He took out his research book. He looked up Shakespeare in the index. He turned to a page and read aloud. "William Shakespeare lived from 1564 to 16. He wrote 37 plays and many sonnets and other poems. Many people think he was the greatest writer who ever lived. The greatest, said Annie. Our Will? Oh man, whispered Jack. He stared in amazement at William Shakespeare's autograph. Hey, we can leave our scroll with Morgan's note, said Annie. It'll prove to her we found a special magic. Then they put this two scroll next to the note on the floor. Then they climbed down the rope ladder. Then they started walking through the woods. A breeze blew, shaking the tree leaves. The wind shadows shifted, but cold from the hidden places. Remember the ancient woods? Annie said in a hushed voice. The fairy queen and the fairy king. Jack smiled and nodded, and plucked the merry wonder of the night, said Annie. And our Will? Jack nodded again. I had a great time, said Annie. Didn't you? Jack sighed. Yes, he said. Then he took a deep breath and spoke very clearly with feelings. I have had a most rare vision. I had a dream. The end. Thank you for reading this story. Magic Tree House number 25, Stage Fright on a Summer Night by Mary Osborne. The end. Goodbye.